Here's what's coming up on this episode of Fitz Nation. I sit down with Jeff Novitzky to clear up the situation at UFC 284 with Islam Makhachev and to talk about IV use with UFC fighters. Then a few minutes with Erin Blanchfield. What a performance she had by beating Jessica Andrade on Saturday night. But first, I catch up with my good pal Sayif Saud to chat about Ryan Spann and his upcoming main event and the return of Jon Jones. Sayif Saud's back on my show. Fitz in the General is the segment where we get to catch up after we do our other TV work. Sayif kind enough to keep his suit on and do my TV work. All right.
Anything for you, my co-host.
Oh,
anything for you.
I know you like that intro that we just fired too.
I do like
fantastic.
I like the intro. I do.
So Ryan Spann fights this week in the main event against Nikita Krylov, but Sayif was just saying how you don't like to dive deep into the details.
No, I don't like to go. I don't like to talk a lot before a fight just because you never know, number one. Number two is I don't like to put any undue stress on my guys with anything I say or do.
Yeah.
And number three is, look, it's all the standard stuff, right? Nikita's tough as hell. Ryan's tough as hell. It's a tough test. I'm not going to talk about game plan and specific stuff, so it's more just the nod of the head. And
right.
And yeah, Ryan's ready and he'll be ready to go.
What can you tell me about the career arc of Ryan Spann, though? Because we saw him on the Contender Series, unsuccessfully, come back successfully, and he's honestly, I think he's surprised some people with like how well he's done.
Well, Ryan is one of the most athletically gifted fighters I've ever seen, but he's been doing MMA for 10 years. He's got 27 pro fights or 26, some crazy number of pro fights, and he had a bunch of amateur fights. So these guys, man, it takes them, 8 to 10 years before they start to really kind of peak, just like any other job, right? When you get a mastery level. We've talked about that with your TV stuff way back in the day when you were a young buck.
Right.
Now you don't even need notes. I
feel like I'm just figuring it out now, by the way, too.
That's right. How old are you?
40.
40, and now you're getting a mastery level of your job. And it's the same with these athletes. They get a mastery level after about 10 years, and I feel like Ryan's getting into his prime and also understanding now the importance of putting the work behind it and what that means and what that entails. So I'm excited for his future.
How do you describe his personality? Because we see him on the surface, huge guy, 6'5", athletically gifted, like you just said, Superman Spann. But I feel like when it comes to the spotlight of a fighter and like this main event and rising the ranks, I feel like that's something where he's looking to break through and be as comfortable with that as anything else.
He's pretty damn comfortable on camera when he wants to be.
Yeah.
He's really a lovable guy who knows who he is. It's not that he's shy, he just doesn't want to talk to people sometimes,
Yeah.
And
I feel for a lot of these fighters, especially when the time where they want to get talked to the most is when it's the most difficult to talk to people.
Credit to Ryan is he's developed some good rapport and relationship with a lot of the guys here, a lot of the staff, a lot of even the commentators, and he'll give them that love. But it's more just of these guys, they're fighters, man. They want to fight, they don't want to talk. But Ryan's actually, watch some of his post fights. he's actually a really funny, super lovable guy. Usually the big guys are the sweetest guys.
Yeah. Khalil Roundtree, I think the world of Khalil Roundtree and the type of personality that he is, and he's very easygoing and down to earth. And on fight week, it's like talking to a different person. I remember this with Paul Felder too. I stepped in an elevator with Paul Felder when he on a fight week for him down in New Zealand, and he looked at me like he didn't even know who I was. Like he was looking through me. Yeah,
because you're on a mission, man.
It's biologically it's weight cut, but then also other than that,
100%. You're focused and locked in on what you're trying to get done, and what you're trying to get done is beat somebody up, and get your hand raised. So you got a different energy fight week. There's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and that gets relieved when you see guys win. Even sometimes when guys lose, they're just happy it's over. A lot of different emotions going on, but Ryan is a guy that shines when the camera's on, and he can turn it on.
Yeah, we just got done with our show, UFC Breakdown, elsewhere on YouTube, so check that out, in which we preview Jon Jones and Cyril Gane. Yeah. What has surprised you about Jon Jones when you dove into the film?
Man, just the plethora of greatness that is there with Jon, and reminding myself of all the incredible moments that this guy's had inside the octagon. You know, I mean, we covered the Machida fight and the Vitor Belfort fight, all those fights when he was young in his tenure. And, he overcame all those challenges all along the way up until, even his most recent wins at light heavyweight that weren't as dominant, but he always finds a way to win. So I look for him to do the same thing. Jon Jones is a winner, and he finds ways to win. So, yeah, there's some controversy there too, but there's, his record speaks for itself, and you just can't deny it.
As a coach, I imagine he does a lot of things that are uncoachable. Like, he sees different things, and it's like only he does them.
Yeah, it's true. The way he uses his length at 84.5 inches, we broke that down with the way the oblique kicks, the front leg side kick, the reach, the constant touching to get his range. They're unique to him, right, because of his length. But his skill and his fight IQ and really his tenacity and his will are really what, you look at as a coach. I mean, the guy's a winner. He won a national title when he was in college. And obviously one of the best fighters ever, with 15 title fights, this being his 16th. The guy's a winner, man. He knows how to win, and it's really not something you can teach. It's something that people have or they don't.
Where do you fall in the greatest of all time conversation?
I mean, you gotta, my guy is GSP. I train with him.
Yeah.
He's the sweetest guy in the world, probably one of the best people I've ever met. Such a nice guy, incredible character and integrity. And I thought he represented MMA with so much class and dignity. He rectified his losses. He got wins over my man Matt Serra. He got that back, and then obviously Matt Hughes. I just thought GSP. He came back and got our guy Mike. Even came, and I think that kind of gets unheralded. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, whatever.
It was just such a one-off thing because it was 4 years, one fight, and then that's it.
He beat Bisping. Bisping was whooping people's ass, and Bisping is as tough as they come and a competitor. So mine's GSP. He has no controversy, no controversy.
Yes.
But you can't not look at Jon. You can't not look at Jon. You cannot not look at what he's done, and especially just going over it now. 15 title fights. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible, and he's never really lost. The Matt Hamill thing was a DQ.
Yeah, right.
Some close fights, but again, Khabib, I have so much respect for. He's definitely the lightweight GOAT, Khabib. Mm-hmm. But I would go, you got to go GSP, Jon. I don't know, man. It's
when you're in it, especially like you're in the sport, and then even for me that's around the sport all the time, when it comes to greatest of all time conversations in any sport, I just put it away and I just go, listen, can you just acknowledge that these are the greats of all time?
100%.
Put them in the conversation, 100%. That's that. There's not one answer.
Yeah, it's
same for pound, like Islam and Volk and that whole thing.
Well, it's a whole different story.
Right.
We won't go down that road.
You just, since the last time on my show, you coached a world champion. Brandon Moreno.
Brandon Moreno.
How would you describe what it was like for you, first time in the lead corner of a title fight, and all that was at stake?
I've been, that was my 80th UFC win, and made a lot of walks. Made walks as a fighter, made tons of walks, obviously, as a coach. And, I really don't get nervous anymore for any of that. But I'll tell you what, title fight, you get a little bit of nerves. And us fighting in Rio, this was probably one of the biggest title fights ever. When are you going to get a fourth fight, a quadrilogy?
Never happened before.
With a 1-1-1 record, which all the fights were so razor close. I mean, the scenario, and then we're fighting the guy in his hometown in Rio. There was a lot of pressure, but we prepared, man. We were very prepared, and Brandon executed the game plan perfectly, and left no doubts and undisputed. So very, very proud of him. What
did you learn? Like, what did you walk away and being like, wow, that was a new thing for me?
It's just the preparation, the preparation and the level of preparation for five, and also, you cannot make mistakes when you're fighting that level of opposition, because one mistake, can spell disaster, and I can do that in any fight, but especially when you're fighting the very, very best in the world. And him and Figgy knew each other so well, we knew that they were going to be well versed. So he came up with a good strategy and a very good game plan, and Brandon listened, man. He listened so well. I mean, you've never seen Brandon not get, he didn't throw any punches. He never got wild or anything. He was so disciplined, and a disciplined Brandon Moreno is a dangerous Brandon Moreno. So I'm excited about his future.
What's been the communication with you guys since then?
Oh, we talk all the time. I mean, I love that.
Do you expect to be in his corner again?
Oh, absolutely. He's going to come to Dallas, and we've already had all those conversations.
Oh, nice.
And he was very grateful and thankful and gave me tons of love in the press conference. And he said, I know Coach doesn't want any credit, but he deserves a lot. And he said, now I got to come to Dallas. I gotta spend my time.
Do it the right way.
Yeah, do it the right time. Training him this week as well.
Yeah.
So, no, Brandon's been great, but, he had some injuries and stuff. He needs to let him heal. And obviously his knee injury was well documented if you watch that documentary. And he was banged up going on that fight, but we got it done.
I like how you said after, too, when as soon as he stepped off the bottom stair, they're like, what's next?
Yep.
And you're just like, can we chill?
Man,
it is the fight game, isn't it? It's just the next thing.
Like, you don't even have a second to digest, the mountain that you climb. It's already, hey, look at the next peak. And that's the fight business. That's the way it is. And that's just the way it is by nature. And I knew that when I was a fighter. And that's why, I was like, man, this is just a never-ending thing, And it never ends. And it's a stress that these guys live with and girls live with and they deal with. And they deal with it really, really well with a lot of class. And I think people don't understand how much duress these guys and girls are under those lights, man. And the embarrassment that can happen and all the other things that they're thinking about that they mostly handle with grace and class.
Yeah. Thanks, Sayif.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Okay, Jeff. What happened with Islam? Is that an easy question or is that a hard question?
I think it is. I think the Australian Commission put out a statement last night saying there's no credible evidence of him violating any of their rules.
Yeah.
I think I'd leave it at that.
Do you think it brings up a bigger issue with IVs? And you just cleared it up for the fighters. What's the situation with IVs?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, it's not an easy thing to explain. It's a little bit complicated. There's multiple layers. Let's start with the UFC USADA rules. So in 2019, we manipulated our rules slightly to allow IV use if a medical situation is diagnosed by a physician and the IV was administered by a medical professional, nurse, EMT, or a doctor. The reason we did that is we were running into instances where fighters were out of competition, they didn't have a fight scheduled or were well out from their fight, and got the flu. Went to the doctor's office and the doctor says, hey, you're really dehydrated. I think a bag or two of IV would benefit you. In the old days, you couldn't do that. You'd have to actually go admit yourself to a hospital, and that's changing a $50 copay and potentially thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. So that's why we changed the rule for a medical diagnosis and administered by a medical professional. However, when it comes to fights, when it comes to fight weeks especially, the rules are two-tiered. There's the UFC USADA rules, and there's also the commission rules. And without exception, every single commission where we go fight would require specific permission from that commission and their doctor specifically to allow an IV use. And what I just told the fighters is there's absolutely no guarantee. In fact, it's probably likely that the commission will be pulling the fight if you have a diagnosed medical condition that requires an IV. Going back to Islam in Perth, the Western Australia Combat Commission, they have a specific rule that IVs are banned completely for rehydration purposes. So it wouldn't matter the volume, wouldn't matter if there was a medical professional involved. Perth bans those IVs. But again, they put out a statement last night that they had no credible evidence of an IV being administered.
And so where did it come from? It came from there was a bruise on his arm?
Yeah,
I
think there was some photos floating around.
Yeah.
What I don't think a lot of people realize, especially the Australian athletes, because they weren't subject to this, but all non-Australian athletes that week gave a blood draw on Wednesday as part of their pre-fight physical. And I think if you look, at pictures thereafter, you saw a small Band-Aid, on the arm. And then as that day progressed, Wednesday and Thursday, the bruising grew from that exact same spot.
I would imagine too, if a fighter's cutting weight,
more likely to bruise maybe for something like that?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but you mentioned cutting weight, and the idea of a Wednesday or a Thursday, a fight week, of getting an IV is contrary to everything these fighters are trying to do.
Yeah.
You're dropping sodium, that last day or two in order to drop that water, and a bag of, saline, is probably going to put you in a position where you're unable to cut that water weight. It's not the time you'd be using an IV.
I feel like you and your department, you and Donna and everybody under you do such an exceptional job of explaining things. Only for people like me, I try not to be this, but for the media world to take something and run against it. So I appreciate you being friendly to me, since I'm the enemy that always lets rumors spiral out of control. But honestly, like, how do you fight that? You're fighting that constantly of like,
absolutely.
What's truth? What is in headlines and what actually happened?
Absolutely. The thing, and we did this from the get-go, is this program is as transparent as you can get. What other professional sport, can you go online and read every single rule for an anti-doping program? Mm-hmm. What other professional sport can you go online and see what athletes are being tested when? There's literally nothing that's being hidden here. And as you saw here today, all an athlete or a coach or support would have to do to find out the answer is just ask the question. And we pride ourselves also on media. We're not hiding behind anything here.
Mm-hmm.
If there's issues, I've regularly been out in front of a camera or a mic explaining what the issue is. So there's nothing going on, in back rooms or anything. Everything's out front, both with the rules and what we're doing here.
I mean, they made a documentary about you.
Which one?
Well, the 25-year thing.
Yeah. Yep.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah,
and they showed how you know how to shoot a gun. So you really better be on your P's and Q's.
That's right. I was my old days, I was an accountant with a gun. That was actually the hiring motto for the IRS criminal investigation where I worked. I was in college. I was an accounting major. Wasn't sure if I wanted to be a CPA, and went to a job fair, and the headline was "Be an accountant with a gun." I'm like, hell yeah, that's something that I can get behind right there.
So you like that? Like, do you shoot? Like, you don't need to now?
Yeah, not as, for 23 years, it was mandatory. I'd go shoot every quarter, all day long. My fingers would be sore from loading up magazines. So in the 7 to 8 years since I've left, no, I haven't shot all that much.
Behind.
Don't miss it so much.
What do you think the next bastion is of what you guys are working on? Because things are always evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the main thing we're working on our program is to make this program easier for our athletes, to make it more convenient, because we say this all the time. And this is the reason we give out these, 50 jackets or 25 shirts, and we've actually got some 75 tests coming up now. It is a tremendous burden on the athlete to report where you're going to be every day of the year so that USADA can find and test you. I mean, that's a big responsibility, and it just takes one day to forget to update that. And so we're constantly challenged with athletes we know aren't trying to cheat or break a rule with staying on top of where they are. What we really want to do is, through technology, make that more convenient to the athlete, where they literally don't even have to think about it. We piloted a program a few years ago with GPS that athletes could choose to opt into that program, and many said, I don't care if you know where USADA, if you know where I am 24/7.
Yeah.
If I don't have to, think about this, come follow me. It didn't work out exactly, but we're pushing them for something along that standard, so that the athlete has less and less responsibility and kind of not think about things.
What about like a microchip, like a dog?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think the holy grail of anti-doping would be a wearable device that absorbs bodily fluid, sweat. And that the thought is everything that you ingest or exposed to gets excreted out eventually in your sweat or your urine, so that this device, tamper-proof, you take it off once every month or two, and we'll be able to chronicle literally everything that you put in yourself. That would be the holy grail, but I don't think we're there yet.
But as a fellow person, human being who lived before the internet, does that freak you out a little bit at the same time?
Well, I mean, what freaks me out is the level of detection that the labs that we use can get down to.
Yeah.
And I just told the card here, but it's, the picogram word is in the news, in years past, but it's 1 part per trillion. If I laid 1 trillion of something out on the floor here, and 1 of those trillion was a prohibited substance, the labs that we use can detect that. So the best way to kind of conceptualize that and get your mind around it, Olympic-sized swimming pool, so what, 50 meters by 25, 10 meters deep, 1 single grain of salt in that pool, 1 grain, dispersed overnight, USADA comes the next morning, gets a cup of that water, and they can detect that 1 grain of salt. And it's fantastic in terms of extending, the detection times if an athlete were to use something. But the issue that it presents to us is a lot of athletes are being caught up in this that aren't intentionally trying to cheat, that used, a contaminated supplement, that ate some contaminated meat for a certain country. It becomes an issue, and I'd say, Donna and I, more than half of our time spent on this program is spent on cases where we believe the athlete didn't intentionally do anything. It's a huge challenge.
What would you say are the chances, to put it in layman's terms, an everyday person that goes to the gym, maybe they take a few sports supplements, protein shakes, eat a normal diet? Like, what are the chances that they would fail a USADA drug
very
test?
high. We've often talked about this, and we should. We thought, let's test all the UFC employees.
Like, I'd fail one right now.
Probably. These supplements, and I recommend this to the general consumer, non-athlete too. Dietary supplements in this country and other countries throughout the world, there's no pre-market government review. So
Not FDA approved.
Not FDA approved. Food has pre-market reviews. Supplements don't. You and I can go out back and dig some dirt up underneath a tree, put it in a bottle, and go right to GNC and put it on the shelves. It's not until after it's harmed a consumer that the government gets involved with supplements. So the things that all of us are taking, if we're taking non-tested, non-certified supplements, yeah, you're subject to all kinds of contaminants. USADA maintains a website called the High Risk List, where they list supplements that they found were contaminated, and there's hundreds of them on there, constantly being added every day.
You feel like you could come up with like some mega money-making supplement because you just know like how it goes?
That I don't know. There's a lot of people
marketing,
in the industry. Yeah, it's a lot of marketing, and who you get in the magazine picture or supplement labels.
Which is also a funny conversation for its own.
What's that?
Well, sometimes they take the before and after photos like an hour apart.
Exactly. Different lighting,
little
different
spray paint, little
tanning,
spray tan.
cream. Exactly.
Awesome, Jeff. What are you, like 6'10"?
6'7".
So like you look down on all those people that cheat.
Yeah, I mean, look, in a program like this, where again, we're so transparent, I mean, literally and figuratively, I guess you could say. But
yeah.
On
you got the joke.
At the little side. Yeah, I mean, all of our rules are publicly posted. I mean, we have one of the most well-publicized programs in sports. Those UFC fighters that are trying to break the rules despite, our program and the comprehensiveness of it, I really have no sympathy for. But on the other side, those that get caught up in it, that weren't trying to do something and innocently took a contaminated product, I do have sympathy for, and we're there for them to support them and try to figure out the answers.
Your phone's like going off like crazy.
That's all day long with me. So
is that all like every time it rings, somebody cheated?
No, it's pretty much every time it rings, it's somebody with a question about the program.
God bless you, John.
That was our boss.
Thanks for the time on this one,
Fitz.
man.
All right, my man.
Thank you.
Anytime.
How do you like the spotlight?
I've been loving it so far. Yeah.
What do you like about it?
I mean,
like, is it in your nature to seek attention and to like enjoy that?
I don't know about necessarily my nature to seek attention. I think it's just more like, I know I want it to be at this level, and I know what kind of like that entails, I guess, with like media or like that kind of thing. So I feel like I've always kind of like, I guess, like seen it coming. So now it's kind of just kind of like here,
Part of it.
Part of it, yeah. But I definitely enjoy it.
Is there a part of you that's like trying to figure out the social media game and like the other side of MMA?
Definitely a little bit. I feel like, on social media, I don't want to be like, I guess, like fake on things. Like I post, like, I guess how I feel. I feel like some people overthink it, or they're not kind of like authentic, I guess, in that sense. I always liked people that are kind of just true to themselves, and I try to follow that. Yeah.
Try to do New Jersey proud?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Born in New Jersey, right?
Born in New York, actually.
Born in New York?
Yeah, but I was raised in New Jersey.
So
yeah.
Are you proud that you're from New Jersey?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say I feel like I was kind of almost raised with both, because both my parents are from New York. So like every weekend, and we live very close to the city, so like every weekend we'd be in New York seeing family, and I grew up in Jersey, so I feel like I'm kind of part of both, and I'm definitely proud to be from there.
So your parents are from New York, but they raised you in Jersey.
Yeah, they both.
So do they even like you? Why do people from New York not like people from New Jersey?
I don't really know. My parents, like, their reason coming to Jersey is because they wanted a house. Like, they both grew up in apartments and stuff their whole life, and they wanted to have like a home for themselves and for like me and my brother when they had kids. I think people from New York to see like anything outside the city is kind of like country life, you know?
Yeah.
Because I know like a lot of like even like my family members will think like anything literally that's not like a filled with buildings is kind of like the country or something. So I think that's kind of what they think.
What do you think is a great part about being from New Jersey?
A great part of being from New Jersey. I mean, I think especially for me, because I'm a professional athlete, I think there's so many athletes from New Jersey. I think it's such like an athletic culture. Like everyone grows up, like, yeah, you go to school, but it's like you always do a sport. Like there's no like not doing a sport, you know? And I think especially for what I do, like such a big wrestling culture and even just boxing, like from New York and New Jersey, like there's so much of that culture in New Jersey. Yeah. So
Who's your New Jersey hero?
I'd definitely say Frankie Edgar, you know?
Frankie.
Yeah.
The guy.
Yeah.
You've been watching his career all the way up because you've been a UFC fan for a long time.
Yes, I definitely have. Like my dad was always a big UFC fan, even before like I was. Like I started training, but I wasn't so into watching the fights. But we would always watch him because my dad would be like, oh, he's from New Jersey. He's from like right around here. And I always thought it was cool.
Are you taller than him?
I think I am. Yeah, I've met him a couple times. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he's still a great fighter.
Yeah.
And he's done what he's done despite that. So.
How about I list some things about New Jersey and you
Yeah.
tell me if you're proud or not proud?
Okay.
Megan O'Leary.
Oh, proud. She's from New Jersey? I
Yeah.
didn't know. Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
She's like a legend.
Yeah, no, I know she is, but I didn't realize she's from New Jersey. That's so funny.
Jim Miller.
Oh, proud. Yeah.
The New York Jets.
Not a big football fan, but I'll say proud.
Proud of the Jets?
Yeah, sure.
You claim them as your own since they practice over there.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
play over there. What about Snooki?
Maybe not on the Jersey Shore, but I think she's trying to like change her ways now. So maybe not proud.
Did
So I
you
feel
watch
like
the Jersey Shore? How about this?
My parents
Jersey
wouldn't let me,
Shore.
it's
When I
funny.
say the words Jersey Shore, does that make you proud or not proud?
I love the shore, so I'd say proud. I feel like people maybe have their own opinions about it, but it's not all what people think.
How old were you when Jersey Shore came out?
Oh, I was in like grade school. Like I remember my parents wouldn't even let me watch it. Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
not to aspire to.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about The Sopranos?
Ooh, I like The Sopranos, the show. Yeah, proud.
So you're in favor of organized crime?
No, but I like the show.
I'm with you. Erin, best of luck.
Thank you.
We're very excited that you're one of these blossoming prospects in the UFC.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me with this.
Yeah, of course.
Being a good sport.
Thanks.
Megan O'Leary's from New Jersey.
No.